Today, the Poppy developers dropped a new tweet where in it are 4 brand new screenshots, all of which hide all sorts of secrets about the next title, from potential gameplay details, location reveals, lore hints, our first look at a returning character, and much more. So without wasting any time, the first screenshot we got here shows a super dark look into what appears to be some kind of mine shaft in the factory, and when brightening the photo, we can actually see here a destroyed Bobby Bear Hug mini critter roaming through the mines, confirming that the mini smiling critters are in fact going to be returning in the game. Now, this is something that we have sort of theorized about since we saw the mini critters roaming the storage area in the Chapter 4 teaser trailer, but this here confirms their return for certain, which is actually something I'm super happy with, because one of the biggest issues with Chapter 3 was that the new red hand we got was honestly kind of useless. It was handy for the playhouse and was somewhat helpful in the final catnap boss, but otherwise it was kind of a useless gimmick for the rest of the game. So seeing them possibly implementing the critters around the factory as sort of a roaming enemy, of course confirms the red hand will be used again, and that it will likely be something we need to wield at all times, as the critters could be around any corner in any place, not just one designated area, so that will add so much more horror to the title. And another interesting thing about the first screenshot is the setting of it inside of a mine. We have already seen remnants of a caves area before in trailers and screenshots and whatnot, but what makes this mine location interesting is in the Chapter 4 ARG, we got this incident report logged in 1993, reporting some kind of incident that happened in the factory during a tour where they mentioned something called the mines, involving a young child getting seriously injured. And this screenshot right here confirms there were in fact mines throughout Playtime Co, which will be explored in Chapter 4, and it also confirms that at one point this was meant to be some kind of tourist attraction that children could roam through, before of course whatever this incident is happened and all the employees, you know, getting eaten by the toys in the hour of joy caused the mines to be abandoned. Moving on to the next screenshot here, we can see a super large storage area which at the end has some kind of door, and when brightening the area we can also see there are a multitude of arrows leading to said door, hopefully meaning there will be more directions in the game guiding us on where to go, rather than just expecting you to walk around aimlessly, a big issue with playcare in Chapter 3 that made the much larger environment, something Mob has never done before, really confusing, but maybe these will be a fix for those problems. Another interesting thing about the room itself is that it has all these big storage crates, which we've seen a multitude of times throughout other screenshots and trailers, including here in the Yarnaby trailer where we first exit the lift at the start of Chapter 4, so chances are this will all be the same area, and this screenshot will be somewhere in the earlier parts of the game, assuming this is in fact the same room. But otherwise, nothing much more to really break down with this screenshot. It's kind of boring, unlike the other ones in the rest of this video, including this screenshot here showing a completely new area looking very similar to the water treatment area in Chapter 2. This is another water treatment area of its own. It even looks like there is some kind of sewage pump here or whatever, which maybe we'll get to use. And we can also see the red smoke pipes are running through this area as well, which at this point seems like it's running through literally every part of Chapter 4. And I'm honestly not sure why. We saw that it dispensed itself in the prison, but I don't see why they needed pipes almost everywhere just for that. Maybe the red gas can travel to other areas as well. But in terms of secrets, we can see here that there is some kind of red TV, which I am 90% sure is meant to be like the red TVs we saw in Chapter 3 that were used to play VHS tape. So most likely there is going to be some kind of tape hiding here, obviously confirming those will be returning, which isn't a shocker, but I'm interested on what they might include in this one. Maybe some lore, or maybe this will be for another puzzle we have to solve to get into the next room, because if we look here we can actually see the devs made a mistake and straight up forgot to add a texture to this part of the control panel, which makes me wonder, since it's a completely separate texture, maybe it'll be some kind of button or whatever they didn't finish working on that will be important to the puzzle. I don't know, more than likely it's just a bug or an oversight, but thought I'd mention it. Another cool part of this screenshot that I'm sure basically everybody missed is if we look up at the ventilation area here, we could barely see a gray exterior marked with the red, blue, and yellow square symbol here in the outer area. And while I can't be for sure, part of me wonders if this might be the prison entrance we saw in the Yarnaby trailer with the same symbol in gray exterior. I don't know, but it's an interesting little detail nonetheless. Moving on to the next and possibly most mysterious screenshot of them all, we have this super odd room of some sorts, where in it we could see a bunch of large pipes coming from different areas leading all to one mainframe here with a bunch of different televisions and also also speakers around it, along with the room itself being surrounded by bookshelves and whatnot. Now, first, regarding the main focal point of the room, this weird pillar, honestly, I'm not exactly sure what this is meant to be. If I had to guess, it looks like it might be some kind of control room. We can see there are a bunch of wires running into it, so maybe this is where all these CCTVs throughout the factory connected, and this was one of the rooms Harley Sawyer was watching us from, especially since around it we could see there are a bunch of bookshelves filled to the brim with books, something that could maybe point to this being related to Harley Sawyer, since throughout the ARG we saw him writing messages on pieces of a biology textbook. What I possibly find even more interesting though is looking outside of the room over here, we can actually see a room with some more computers and what looks like the same exact padded walls from the playhouse in chapter 3, specifically the prison area where Dog Day and Catnap, the successful experiments, were held. So maybe this is where all of the working experiments like Yarnaby and Pianosaurus, if you can even say that, were staying. And another super interesting part of this screenshot is over on the left, we could see a slammed shut door that was barricaded with one of the toppled over bookshelves, likely from someone trying to hide and defend themselves in the hour of joy, where on the top we can actually see deep holes in the shape of scratch marks of whatever they were trying to keep out of said room. And this could, on one hand, just be a small extra detail to add scares and not really have much of a purpose, but on the other hand, knowing how much attention to detail Mob likes to have with their environments, especially in chapter 3 with the cat scratches everywhere for Catnap, I wonder if this could be from one of the characters featuring in the game. Possibly Yarnaby, since we know Yarnaby had 4 claws on his paw, or at least 3 in the front and 1 in the back, or maybe it could be someone completely new. I'm not sure, but that's some super interesting storytelling through the image that somebody was once camping out in this room hiding from one of the monsters, and it really makes the room so much more disturbing. But while that is all of the new screenshots themselves, something else I wanted to point out about all of them as a whole is that if we look through a few of them, we've also been able to find a couple of other interesting props, specifically ones relating to construction, like these construction metal bars here and this toolbox here. Now, at first, to most people, these things would seem completely meaningless, and maybe they are, but I did find it suspicious that all these items would just be laying everywhere throughout chapter 4 in some random screenshots, since at the beginning of chapter 4's rollouts, Poppy Partners received these letters from Warrenbach Construction, the company that helped build Playtime Co, including things like their confidential labs. But ever since we got that one teaser, we haven't seen them again since, whether that be in the ARG or trailers or screenshots. But we know in some way they have to play some kind of role in chapter 4. They wouldn't have just done that and teased that for nothing. And I think these leftover construction parts are likely from the Warrenbach Construction Company. So maybe they'll play a B plot in chapter 4 where we'll end up learning more about them and their specific relationship with Playtime Co.